And as vice president, there wasn't a single thing that I did that she couldn't do. And so I was able to delegate her responsibility on everything from foreign policy to domestic policy.
So today, Joe Biden crawled out of the basement where he is still supposedly the president to do an interview with the ladies of The View, which honestly, props to him for doing so, because I'm not exactly keeping score here, but I'm pretty sure that ever since Biden dropped out, he has still done more interviews than Kamala Harris herself, which really does say a lot. But with that said, I don't know why exactly his handlers keep letting Joe Biden talk on live television, because every time he does so, he says something that screws over Kamala Harris, either unintentionally or who knows, maybe intentionally. Take a listen.
And as vice president, there wasn't a single thing that I did that she couldn't do. And so I was able to delegate her responsibility on everything from foreign policy to domestic policy.
I don't understand it. Like, if you're a Democrat, you have to be thinking to yourself, why do they keep letting Joe Biden talk? Just shut him up. Don't put him on camera, right? Because that is such a damning admission for Kamala Harris. She obviously, as you can see right now, is trying to distance herself away from Joe Biden and his administration as much as possible for a very specific and calculated reason. Biden is not popular. His leadership is not popular. And so she's running around trying to say, I'm a different person than Joe Biden. I have nothing to do with him, even though I was the vice president. And then what does Joe Biden say? Joe Biden says, oh, well, she's been running the entire country for me this entire time, right? I've been delegating the responsibilities on foreign and domestic policy. And it's like, okay, on the surface, maybe that sounds great if it were not for the fact that this is the Biden administration, and that's not exactly something Kamala Harris wants you to be saying on TV. It really does just crack me up. So with that said, folks, if you're enjoying this video, be sure to hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. But moving on here a little bit, we know it is The View, and you're going to see absolute cringe. Take a listen as Sunny Hostin compares Joe Biden's leadership to George Washington. No, we're not making this up. According to Sunny Hostin, Joe Biden is on the level of George Washington himself.
See, but I truly believe that his legacy will be etched in the history books as Washington, as someone who put that ego aside and put his country first.
Also
He's
so decent.
That's definitely his legacy.
He will be etched in the history books alongside George Washington. But, you know, I'll tell you this, not only is that just obviously ridiculous, but it's also not even true, because even if we're going to take this in good faith, because people might say, Vince, you're kind of taking out of context what she's saying. She's talking about the fact that Joe Biden stepped aside for the good of the country. Joe Biden didn't step aside for the good of the country. He stepped aside because the Democrats, his own party, thought he could not win in the next election. George Washington didn't step aside because he thought he was going to lose the election. No, he was obviously going to win. He stepped aside because he wanted to set a precedent for the country. Joe Biden stepped aside, at least in terms of the Democrat Party perspective, for entirely selfish reasons for their own party. So that is obviously just one of the dumbest things I've ever heard anyone say on The View, and that's really saying a lot, because the bar there is really low. But of course, if this is all true and Joe Biden is just as good as George Washington, you really have to be asking the question, why is he not running for president again if he is so amazing?
It was only 2 months ago that you decided to step aside from seeking re-election, putting your country first above any personal ambition, and passing the torch to the vice. It's like having one of the Beatles at the table.
What a just completely pathetic 22 seconds to watch. It's like having one of the Beatles at the table. We love you, Joe. Yay! He stepped aside willingly. First of all, let's be clear. Joe Biden did not leave the race voluntarily. He was forced out by the very same people who are now saying, oh my gosh, we love Joe Biden so much. He's such a great guy. Yay! It's like having the Beatles. Again, if he is so amazing, according to you guys, why is he not running again? Well, we obviously know the answer there. And funnily enough, they actually start to kind of get into this discussion on this episode, because Joe Biden starts talking about the decision and the reason why he stepped down. down, and gets a little bit intriguing to say the least. Take a listen.
And you passed the torch to Vice President Kamala Harris. What have these past 2 months felt like, and are you at peace with your decision?
Well, I am at peace with my decision. Look, when I ran this last term, I said that I saw myself as a transition president.
Yeah.
Transitioning to a new generation of leadership. Now, I know I only look 40, but I'm 180 years old. I've been around forever. And but what happened was we were having so much success in getting things done that people thought we couldn't get done.
Right.
I found myself having used more time than I would have ordinarily to pass that torch. But working with Kamala, she is bright, she is tough, she's honorable.
So you obviously hear Joe Biden so far just not trying to say too much, even though he obviously knows what happened to him. Well, maybe he knows. Maybe he forgot by now. Honestly, I don't know. But let's keep listening. Let's see if it gets more interesting.
What I like about her, and one thing we share in common, is that we have an optimistic view of the future here.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing we can't do. And there really isn't. Anyway, but that's what happened. And so finally, I decided that it was better. And I said I meant what I said. It was the greatest honor in the world sitting behind the Resolute desk as President of the United States. But I loved it. But it sounds corny, but I love my country more.
That's right. That's just an incredible. That's an incredible thing.
Yeah, this whole thing is just a complete humiliation ritual. But listen, as I think this is like the more conservative girl on The View tries to grill that question a little more. Like, were you cooed out by Nancy Pelosi? And it starts to get even more interesting.
We all agree at this table it's very selfless of you to pass the baton and step aside. There was a perception that perhaps your hand was forced, and some pointed fingers to Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who you have a long relationship with and accomplished many things with. Did you feel that your hand was forced, and what is your relationship with Speaker Pelosi now?
Well, we obviously know that that is completely true, but let's see what Joe Biden has to say.
And look, I never fully believed the assertions that somehow there was this overwhelming reluctance of my running again. I didn't sense that. And although the polling, as I said, Biden's polling was different, the fact of the matter is my polling was about, we're always within range of beating this guy.
Yeah.
And, what I did was, I think it makes sense. There were some folks who would like to see me step aside so they have a chance to move on. I get that. That's just human nature. But
So he's admitting he was cooed out, right? He kind of just said it. Some folks wanted me to, wait, but anyway, like he's saying it publicly. He knows, okay? Everyone knows. But watch it. This is just such a pathetic humiliation ritual, because watch as Joe Biden has to try to imply but also deny what obviously we all know happened. And it's I kind of almost feel bad for the guy. Almost. I really do, because
that wasn't the reason that I stepped down. I stepped down because I started thinking about it. It's hard to think of, I know you're only 30.
He was thinking about it, and there was Godfather music playing in the background. That was the type of thinking, quote unquote, he had to do.
But it's hard to think of, it's hard for me to even say how old I am. No, I'm serious. I don't know what you,
Why is that?
I give my word. It's like, holy God, that can't be right. That just can't be right.
I'm your age, by the way. The number gives me
you're not.
vertigo. Yes, it does. I am. I'm your age.
No woman close to me is as old as I am. None.
I'm telling you.
Right now they are.
And Mr. President, do you think had you stayed in the race, would you have won?
Yes.
Then why did you stay in the race? Okay, I know we had the, he's joking about how old he is. Okay, whatever. But do you think if you stayed in the race, you would have won? Joe Biden says yes. So why didn't he stay in the race? We obviously know the reason, okay? But everyone's going to sit here and say, oh, he chose to step aside. It's ridiculous. Everyone knows this is not true. Even Joe Biden, okay? Look at his face.
I was confident I would beat Trump.
Listen, I
He's a
didn't like
loser.
the way they did it. I'm going to just say it out loud because nobody says it out loud. I didn't like the way it was done publicly. I thought they could have done this in a different way because we didn't need to hear all the inner fighting. I didn't like it. I'm saying it to you. You were my ride or die. I was going wherever you were going, that's what I was doing. So I just wanted to say that because I always felt you were going to probably do 4 years and then try to figure out where to go with Kamala.
Okay, let's close on that because that was very interesting. You heard a rare criticism of what Democrats do by Whoopi Goldberg. She never says anything bad about the Democrats except for when she says she doesn't like the way they did it, okay? This whole panel just went around in circles saying Biden stepped aside voluntarily. There was no coup, blah, blah, blah. And then Whoopi Goldberg, again, just kind of off script here, just says, well, I don't like the way they did it. Who is they? Who is they? She's alluding to the fact the Democrats used public pressure and private pressure to force Joe Biden out of the race. You can see Joe Biden's face. He obviously knows that it's true, but yeah, clearly he doesn't really want to admit to this publicly, although I'm sure I'll say this one day, we're gonna find out the full story, okay? I guarantee somewhere there's a diary or a journal of Joe Biden that will be dug up by presidential historians in 20 to 30 years, and we'll finally figure out, once all the dust is settled, exactly how Biden was cooed out, although we have a pretty good idea, don't we, folks? We kind of understand exactly how this went, but it's kind of just pathetic to watch this old man have to try to pretend like he wanted to step out of the race. Oh, I totally wanted to do it, you know? It's like when you're little kids and you beat your friend in the video game and the friend says, I let you win, man. I meant to do that. It's like, obviously not, but that's exactly what Joe Biden is doing and kind of being forced to do. And it's pathetic. But with that said, ladies and gentlemen, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.